Hey everyone, it's Earl with get2freedom.com coming at you from Northeast Ohio. And today I've got a story about a man named Tom who had a paralyzed arm. And he went to the doctors and they ran all kinds of tests and scans and couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. And as a last ditch effort, he spent some time with a rabbi. Now, an hour after he met with the rabbi said, "Quick, hand me some water." And he held up the water bottle and looked down and realized he was using his paralyzed arm. So Tom was a member of a synagogue. He started developing all this pain in his arm, and it got worse and worse and worse. And it got so bad that he the mobility got worse, and then finally it was just paralyzed. And he was going to all kinds of doctors. The medical system couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. It kept coming back that his arm was fine, but he couldn't move it. It was very painful, and then it got to the point where it just was paralyzed, and he held it against his body, and that's how his arm was, and he couldn't move it. It was totally immobile. So there was a man named Rabbi Lappin, and he heard of Tom's plight and invited him over to the house to see if there was anything he could do because he knew that there was more to medical conditions than just the physical, right? Because he was a man of faith, and he knew that there's physical explanations for things and there's spiritual explanations. So he brought Tom over, and he just started talking to him, and asked him what was wrong, and of course there's all kinds of modern things that were wrong, bills and stress and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, okay, that's all new stuff. What about old stuff? And he finally got to the point where Tom told him about a moment where he fought in World War II, and he was fighting with the Allies in South Africa against the Nazis, and was tasked with the responsibility of defending the borders of a fort in Tobruk. And he and a partner had a machine gun nest, and the Nazis appeared over the horizon and started, you know, advancing towards them. And they were ordered to start firing upon the Nazis. And so there he was, firing his machine gun against the Nazis as they were coming in, and they were just coming too fast. And his buddy next to him was helping feed the machine gun. So he had, all those chains of bullets that come off the side of the machine gun. He was feeding them, and the muzzle of the machine gun was firing so much that it was becoming red hot, and it was just going, going, going. All of a sudden, his buddy got hit with a bullet, and he went down and leaned back against the back of the machine gun nest. But the Nazis were too close. Like, Tom couldn't stop firing, and his friend said, "Hey, I'm getting thirsty." And Tom said, "Just a minute, just a minute. I'll get you in just a minute." And his machine gun ran out of bullets, and he flipped open the casing to put more bullets in, and he grabbed the water and handed it to his buddy, but his buddy had already passed. His buddy died. And as Tom was recounting this story, the rabbi said, "Aha, I think I found something." And he said, let's do something. Let's relive the moment. And Tom didn't really like that idea because, he was trying to forget the pain of this moment that had happened in his life. But this rabbi was really cool. He tipped over the sofa and the cushions and built kind of like a replica machine gun nest for Tom. And then he gave him a broom so he could have the broom handle and reenact this moment in his life that was so traumatic. And the rabbi said, "Okay, I'm going to play the role as your buddy, and you're going to be firing the machine gun like you were, back in World War II. And let's just let's just walk our way through it. So Tom started recounting the story, and he was getting more and more into it as the moment overtook him, and he had the broom handle, and he was firing against the Nazis, and it was all coming back. And the rabbi said, "Now what? Now what happened?" He's like, "The Nazis, they're really close. They're really close, and the machine gun's really hot." He said, "What happened next?" He's like, "We got to refill the magazine." And so they flipped over the thing, and you know, imagine them filling the magazine, and keep firing, kept firing, kept firing. And he's like, "Now what happened?" He's like, my buddy got hit." And so the rabbi leaned back against the back of the other sofa and said, "I'm hit." And then he said, "Now what? Now what?" He's like, my buddy, he's thirsty. And he's like, "All right, pass me the water." And then Tom reached over and handed him the water, and then looked down and realized it was his paralyzed arm that had reached down and handed the water back to his buddy that got hit. And Tom looked down and said, "Hey, my arm's moving. I did it. My arm, it moved. I'm using my arm." And the rabbi said, "Your physical body was producing the pain now, years later, so that you would be able to relive this moment and forgive yourself for not giving your buddy water." And that realization of the traumatic event that Tom was suppressing released the energy block that Tom was holding, that God put there so that he would look at it, so that he would have a chance to release and forgive himself, and understand that the physical pains that we have a lot of times have to do with spiritual reasons, and the holding of these energies causes a lot of physical pain, and we can release them if we go back, relive the moments, and even if just in our imagination, change what happened, or at least forgive ourselves for what we did and what other people did to us. And I must say, I changed the name of the person involved. And this is a recounting of a story that I heard on the Rabbi Lappin podcast. So, Rabbi Lappin recounted this story about his father and a man in his synagogue that had this paralyzing and reliving moment. And it was the first time that I was exposed to the fact that there's spiritual and there's physical, and both cause the physical pains and the physical symptoms that we call disease. And the medical system only ever looks at the physical side, and we have to start expanding our awareness into the spiritual side and into a way that we can do a holistic healing of our bodies, from the energy body into the physical body, and it works together. It's not one or the other. And if you're super spiritual, you still might need to sew your arm back on if ever any real physical trauma ever happened. So we can't get rid of the whole side of the medical, and we can't experience life only in the spiritual. We're meant to put it together and be in and have the experience of both. So I hope this story cements the idea that the spiritual side of things can have physical manifestations and vice versa. So that's the story for today. I hope this was entertaining and useful. Go to get2freedom.com. That's get the number 2freedom.com. Head down to the spiritual freedom section. There's going to be a link for our flagship course, Heal Yourself, an introduction to whole body healing through energy work. Go through that. It will lead you through the triggers method that I talked about in another video, of how to identify and release stuck trauma energy from your past that will allow the flow of positive healing energy and a lot of the pain symptoms and physical symptoms that you're experiencing will just move right out of your body, and they'll disappear. So please go there, check it out, enjoy the resource, check out the rest of the website. I hope this video provided value. Remember, don't just dream of freedom, get to freedom. See you next time.